Hello, Trevor.
Hi, Kevin. Hello, Alex.
As I was saying just now to Oliver Whitfield-Mircic, I'm scratching my head trying to work out what on earth the Prime Minister is thinking here. OK, we can think about a kind of lurch to a kind of centrism, which he thinks will be successful at the next election. I suspect that he's entirely diametrically wrong about that. What I think the electorate would like is for the Tories to be Tories. He's trying to make them less Tory. But dispense with all of that. David Cameron? Really? What on earth is going through his mind?
Well, my first impression on the appointment of David Cameron was that it was a disaster. But on closer scrutiny, I think this is an unmitigated catastrophe for the Conservative Party and its chances of even clinging on to a reasonable vote at the next election, still less winning it. I think that Rishi Sunak has managed to snub very important people, not least his own Conservative MPs and ministers and cabinet colleagues, by offering a job to an outsider who basically is a busted flush, who destroyed his own reputation in the political world by calling and then losing the Brexit vote. And there's nobody in the House of Commons anywhere that could do the job of Foreign Secretary better than this has been, who was described by Rishi Sunak himself in recent times as part of the failed political consensus of the last decade or so. I think this is just and also a huge snub for the people who gave Boris Johnson his landslide election victory. Those red wall voters are either going to vote Labour again, or they're going to simply sit on their hands like many, many other would-be Tory voters. They're not going to vote for this government. They may not vote for Labour, but they won't vote for the Tories.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it strikes me that that landslide victory back in 2019, an 80-seat majority gifted to the party, frankly, because Brexit voters trusted the Conservatives to get Brexit done. That was the campaign slogan. The last person in the world who's going to be doing that is David Cameron, who actively campaigned against it, and now he's going to have to be the interlocutor with Brussels. But is this now going to create some sort of revolt internally in the party from the likes of backbenchers in the ERG and so forth? Are we likely to see Sir Graham Brady wheeled out of the stationery cupboard to start counting letters of no confidence again?
Well, I think almost anything is possible, to be honest here, Alex. What you've got now in the top echelons of this government, in the position of Chancellor and Foreign Secretary, are two avowed Remainers. Rishi Sunak himself has been causing some discontent by the appearance, at least, that he hasn't been pursuing the benefits of Brexit as assiduously as some people in the party would wish. So this gives rise to an enormous amount of suspicion among those people on the right, now led by Suella Braverman, who has a huge following that she might not ever have had in the past and does now. She's a martyr. And I think that Rishi is going to have a very difficult time over the next 12 months if he lasts those 12 months.
So we are, Trevor. We're going to bring in now Philip Bond, who is a former advisor to David Cameron. Thanks for joining us, Philip. Well, you've just heard a lot of criticism of this appointment. I mean, my feeling is that whether or not you like Cameron or not, I'm not particularly a fan, but of all the people the Prime Minister could have chosen to be the new Foreign Secretary, why a guy, you know, who's been gone for 7 years, who got the Brexit vote wrong, you know, who frankly is no one is keen for him to come back. I mean, why has Rishi gone out of his way to resuscitate the long dead career of David Cameron?
It's fairly inexplicable, and I share all of Trevor's remarks, really, and views. But look, the Tory party is roughly split into three camps. One is Suella's camp. We might call them the Red Tories or the post-Liberals, people who supported Brexit, want a new settlement for the working class, want a new hard policies on everything from migration to kind of woke politics. Then we have the Trussites, the old free market, extreme liberals. They failed economically. They blew up what remained of Boris's support. And then we have the One Nation group, essentially liberal conservatives. And I just think that Sunak has looked at his options and thought, I'm going to go for the only stable part of the party that supports me, which is the Liberal part of the party. I'm going to bring in Cameron as a reassurance figure for that third, and then I'm going to challenge the other sort of two opposing groups to bring me down and dare them to do so. And I think he must have made the calculation that that's his only path for stability into the run-up to the general election. But like many of your contributors this morning, I think it's a very, very risky or even foolish decision. I think it's antagonised a whole swathe of the party. I think he's lost the majority of the party in this. We have nobody from the right, from the 2019 appealing right in cabinet. And I think it has hugely empowered Suella, who now is the leading candidate of the right, which she wasn't before, to pick and choose her moment to go. I also think her moment to go is going to come a lot sooner than people might suspect. If the government loses the Rwanda vote to the courts, i.e. the courts rule it as illegal and in contravention with the European Court of Human Rights, that's an ideal opportunity for Suella and her allies to then lead with, we demand that the party exits from the EHCR, and that can, I think, organise well over the 53 letters that they need to get a vote of no confidence, and may well even pull in about half of the party. So it's a very risky decision. I can't see the win. I have to think it's a misjudgment. And I have to think we've made a vulnerable Prime Minister even more vulnerable.
I mean, talk about misjudgment. I'm going to bring Trevor back into this. The headlines just write themselves, don't they? If you're sitting on the left of politics, you'll be talking about Riot Club, Bullingdon Club, unelected, and, you know, posh boy, essentially, back in power who, you know, doesn't represent the public and can't be held accountable. If you're a right-wing headline writer, you'll be saying, well, this guy hates Brexit. He doesn't stand up for the red wall. Is anybody out there, Trevor, going to actually be backing him?
Well, I don't think they will. As I said, the only person I've heard actually speaking out in favour of this is Michael Heseltine, and that's as good as the curse of death for most members of the party. So, Philip is right about the big challenge that now lies ahead only in a day or so from now, when the Supreme Court will rule on Rwanda. And the omens seem to be that they will rule it out. If that happens, the only move that the government has left of them is to go ahead, leave the European Convention on Human Rights and go it alone in defiance. Now, can we see Rishi Sunak doing that? I think not, but we can see a large chunk of the party absolutely rampant in favour of that idea. So, and then we've got the budget in a week's time. And what is there going to be given in that budget that isn't going to be seen as a blatant bribe, if there's any bribe at all?
I feel
in very narrow waters here.
I feel this, Trevor. I think that at a stroke of his pen, if you like, Rishi Sunak has just lost the red wall votes. I mean, this is a betrayal. This is a serious, egregious betrayal of the Brexit vote. We've already got ardent Europhile Jeremy Hunt back in the fold as Chancellor. And now we've got David Cameron. The people in the red wall voted Brexit. They want the government to support them. Instead, we have a Prime Minister who's basically said, I don't care what you think, I'm bringing back the Remainers. This is a betrayal of the Brexit vote.
Yes, and frankly, I see this as an act of political suicide by the Conservative Party and by Rishi Sunak. And it distresses me to say this because, as you will know, Kevin, I have spoken in support of Rishi and his chances of rallying the party for the 12 months or so that he's been leader. But this is deeply disappointing, and I just wonder what sort of headlines the newspapers, especially those who are Conservative supporting newspapers, are going to give to this decision tomorrow. I cannot see anything other than a bloodbath for the Tories. He might as well call the election now, get it over and done with, and hand the reins of power to Keir Starmer. And God help us all when that happens.
Philip, I'm going to come back to you. I just want to play devil's advocate. Someone's got to try and find some positive about David Cameron. And believe me, it is not easy.
He's got a nice suit on. He's wearing a nice suit.
He likes a good shepherd hut, you know. I don't know. But, you know, when he was Prime Minister, he did talk a lot about leaving the ECHR. It's something, actually, frankly, he's advocated for. And if you look back on his comments when it comes to the Rwanda plan, again, it's something that Cameron has at least vocally supported. Do you think there is an idea here that because he's sort of matey with the people in Brussels, because he made it very clear he never wanted us to leave the EU, that if we did want to pull off some of these moves in Parliament, and which will be frankly unpopular and have all the sort of sneering eyebrow raising across the channel, that he might be a good person to be the sort of messenger of bad news?
No, is the short answer.
I tried.
Trevor and I are both agree on this. Look, you've got James Cleverly is now Home Secretary, and he's on record as opposing withdrawing from the European Court, as, by the way, is Sunak. So I don't think that option is open. I do struggle to see the raison d'etre for pulling Cameron in, other than he's a very established figure who will have magnificent global connections, and we are in an extreme global situation. But James Cleverly was doing a good job as Foreign Secretary, so I can't read it, to be honest with you. Therefore, I tend to think it's a mistake because this will alienate the 2/3 of the party that aren't kind of, you know, Osborne Cameron liberals, and 2/3 is bigger than a third. And they're meeting today, the Common Sense group, the New Conservatives group. I was on Newsnight on Friday, where I said that their support is somewhere between sort of 60 to 70. I think the actions today increases the potential support of that group to 100 at least. And if Suella chooses and plays her cards right and correctly, and remember, the vast majority of Conservative voters think she's absolutely right on two-tier police.
Yep.
And they think she's absolutely right. And the only political figure to call it out, and by the way, I think she is absolutely right. We've allowed mass anti-Semitism to become the norm in central London, and the police have taken the easy route of standing at the side and then prosecuting by photograph after the event. I mean, so the majority of Tory voters and the membership will now be with Suella, and the MPs will be calculated. If Suella goes to the membership, she will be leader, and therefore they will be more tempted to side with her. So again, I think it's like holding your own boat. I think it's a very peculiar decision, if I'm honest.
I mean, Trevor, if this is just more and more infighting amongst the Tories, potentially another leadership challenge, are the Tories essentially just putting themselves out of power for a decade?
Oh, quite possibly, maybe longer. Maybe it's the end of the Tories, for all we know. I mean, just going back to the beguiling picture that you painted of David Cameron as the trustworthy candidate going to the European Union and saying that.
I had to dig deep to do that, believe me. But yeah, carry on.
Of course, but I just wanted to remind you that that was exactly the role he allegedly played in 2015, 2016. He was supposed to come back with a deal. He didn't, and that's why he lost that Brexit referendum. And I fear that that same stamp of indecision or wrong decisions will hit the Foreign Office under David Cameron and Rishi Sunak's government in tandem.
Yeah, remember that. I mean, that's the thing about Cameron, was he was profoundly wrong.
Oh,
no, Do we want a man?
Super well, I was running UKIP at the time.
He was just wrong.
So
he misunderstood the country. Yeah. He misunderstood the mood of the country. He got it massively wrong and ruined his career. So what is he doing back? Quick last question, Trevor. I'm a bit disconcerted by the fact that we have a Home Secretary who actually spoke out and told the public what she thought, what she truly believed. And I don't like the way that the establishment come down on people like Suella Braverman like a ton of bricks, saying, inappropriate language, you shouldn't be talking like that. Well, if we can't have honesty and the truth from our the holders of our major offices of state, then what is the point of politics if it's just some sort of codified way of stylised behaviour where you don't tell it like it is? She just told it like it is. Everybody agrees with her and she's lost her job for it. What's going on in Westminster that this is the case?
Telling it like it is, Kevin, is a hate crime. So whatever you say, right or invariably right, common sense, whatever you say, it is automatically denounced as fascism, racism, Islamophobia, or some other form of obsession. It may be absolutely true, but the trouble is that we now have a population which is so pig ignorant, it doesn't know the facts. It doesn't know its immediate history, let alone thinking back as far as, say, 60 or 70 years to the Holocaust. It doesn't even know what happened on October the 7th in Israel. It knows nothing. And that's why every time someone says something, the ignoramuses say it's a hate crime. You cannot say that.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you both to Trevor Kavanagh and Philip Bond for joining us.